All right, let's go to UFC 251. First off, let me say a couple things on Fight Island. Here's your Fight Island frequently asked questions. Did Dana White overhype it? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. It was overhyped by a lot. It was literally just a spot for them to keep the fighter safe. Was it still awesome to watch? Yeah, it was cool to see all the Fight Island logos and everything, and to see how all that thing was set up. Yeah, it was cool. Did it do its job? Were fighters safe? Yes, and that's what matters. And was it the most world class way? Is any sport going to do it better than the UFC in terms of keeping their fighters safe and keeping everyone involved safe? Nobody, not even the NBA or MLS bubble, can take anything from these guys. This is the way to do a world class event in sports or concerts or whatever. That was their original goal with this, and they completed it in a week. That was impressive. Fight Island this week, even for the last few days, I know we had a card yesterday, which I watched bits and pieces of. That this is awesome. This was nice, and they accomplished what they wanted to. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I definitely think you're right. It was a little bit overhyped, but it made it fun, the build up, us being able to talk about it. And like you said, the hype surrounding it was fun to talk about. Um, I will say that, like you said, it was a little bit overdone in the fact that I wanted a little bit more from it. Um, but nonetheless, it was still really efficiently done, like you touched on also with, keeping athletes safe and stuff like that. But the marketing for it also, I think, was really efficient. Um, Now, I don't know if you want to dive right into it, but I had a
I,
problem with the main event.
you had a problem with the main event. Let's go down the list here a bit, and let's get to the big stories at the end. Okay.
Okay.
Um,
Sure.
Volkan Ozdemir, that was a pretty fun fight, but
That
I
was.
think we're expecting him to win at that point.
Mhm.
Paige Van Zant, is she done with fighting now, or do you think she's going to Bellator?
Yeah.
Because I'm in a strange spot. Like, do you think that's why I'm kind of squinting a little bit? But like, do you think she's completely done with fighting, or do you think one of our favorite fighters to watch is done?
um, I mean, I think she probably ends up going somewhere else. I would like her to just hang it up because I think she's been, how do I say this? It's
It's
just a little
it's
bit overhyped with her. You know what I mean? There's a lot of surrounding things with her, but the fighting never really lives up to its bill. Obviously, like you're talking about her leaving, we've heard Dana at the press conference, say, it's time for her to look for somewhere else because she does do quite a bit of like contract talking and stuff for not really ever like performing that great. So it's probably time for her to look elsewhere if she does want to continue fighting. I would probably rather just like have it be over. Um, I don't know how you feel about it. She's not a bad fighter. It's just not.
I'm a Van Zant fan. If there's any fighter in the world I want to interview, it's Paige Van Zant.
Yeah.
She's just so awesome in so many ways, and I loved her book. Obviously, I'm just a huge fan of hers. So the last year or two, as a diehard fan of her, it's been hard to watch.
Yeah.
It's been it's just been difficult, but at the same time, you have to understand. And Megan Anderson talked about this on her show the other day, and I was listening to her kind of speak on it as well, where it's like, she makes more money off the cage than on it.
Yep.
I think there's a company, again, I keep saying Bellator because I think if there's any way she's going to go, her husband's already in Bellator. If there's any place where she's going to go and be welcomed in right away, I think it's Scott Coker in Bellator.
Hmm.
But at the same time, and I think Bellator would give her a lot of money. But at the same token, I am starting to feel like it's better for her to turn into more of a celebrity voice than anything else, because I'm just not sure what technical skills are there. And I thought flyweight would give her a shot to actually do something. It honestly, unfortunately, made it worse and made me feel less confident about her fighting skill moving forward, unfortunately.
Yeah. I don't mean to kind of chuckle there towards the end, but it was a little disappointing. Um, I just think over the last, like you said, the last couple of fights, she's been dominated pretty well by. I don't want to take anything away from the people she's fighting, but pretty low class. It's not like she's like fighting like world class fighters. I
Yeah.
don't like I said, I don't want to take anything away, but it's just she's been dominated by lower end, lower
Yeah.
tier. So it's to me, I'm with you. It's probably more time to just transition to being, like you said, a celebrity voice rather than.
Yeah. It's tough because, again, I love Paige, but, man, it's been rough. It's been hard. So,
I think we can see it on Dana's face too. He's kind of done with it. We saw a
it's
little
just
more
sad.
enthusiasm from him earlier on, but I think it's tailored
just
off for him too.
it's just sad for me, man. Like, the whole thing just feels sad, and I don't know if it's just because I think it's because I'm just a huge fan of hers, but it's just, it hurts. It just hurts to watch her fight because you get excited and you're like, okay, she can finally kind of turn the page, and it just hasn't happened, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then Amanda Hebos, let's turn to her really quick. Honestly, I think she's gonna find her way in a contender spot quick. She was, by the way, her interview, not only like her interview outside the cage, but also her excitement last night watching the fights backstage. She is really fun to watch. This is a really fun fight on her end. I think she has a shot to be a contender in a flyweight division that I think needs more contenders. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think we need a little bit more personality, especially, in that division, that in the women's ranking. And I think that she was like, but obviously, like you touched on, quite a character in the press conference and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think she's exciting. I don't know that I necessarily put too much weight, kind of like I said, on that fight in particular, just because I don't know what to expect from Paige Van Zandt as far as fighting goes anymore. But I think she's got the right personality to be able to kind of market, like you said, that flyweight division and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, we could go either way with that. I'd probably like to see one more like test per se before I give her like a real good shot at something. But yeah, I don't know. With, like I said, I don't want to put too much weight on that one fight.
Yeah. And then let's go to Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade. I didn't have too much of a problem with the decision itself. It was a really close fight. These two always fight a really fun fight. But for Namajunas, her going up to fight Zhang Li, do you think that fight's really interesting for you for the strawweight title, and maybe Rose getting her strap from Wei Li?
To be honest, I know I'm in the minority on this one, but I don't know if I want to say this because I know I'm going to get some crap from you for this one, but I don't know if Rose won that fight. So I
have a tough time picking it. Like, I wasn't too sure about it, so I was okay with the decision.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think Rose going up and fighting Wei Li, I think she's going to get handled pretty well. I don't know that Rose is. I'm not sold on Rose yet. Let me just put it that way. I'm not there with her yet.
Yeah. You're not at that spot. Yeah, I can understand that. I feel like the division is a little weird once Wei Li won the title, because I felt like it just made the division really strange for me, where I just don't know what the direction's going to be. I feel like it's just going to keep switching hands constantly. There's not going to be one person really leading the way moving forward.
Yeah, but I think that's actually good for this women's weight class. I think it's better for a little more intrigue rather than one dominant fighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess, because I guess you can make the argument with the flyweights that's been the biggest issue. So
yeah,
but I don't know if there's only like 3 or 4 contenders. I think it's going to be weird just to see it switch hands between all 4 of them. And I'm not sure how long it's going to take before the division really gets resolved, I guess.
Yeah.
Is where I'm at with that. Peter Yan and Jose Aldo, what was your perspective on this fight?
I think Peter Yan's going to be a real problem in this division for a long time.
Yep.
I think he pretty much handled this fight. Um, I I don't want to sound, because I know I've always kind of said I want the fights to go, but I thought this fight should have been stopped a little bit earlier than it did.
Yeah, I think I'm right with you there. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, I don't want to bring up the refs too early, but that was my first kind of,
Yeah, the ref was pretty bad for this fight.
the
Yeah.
problem. I had a few problems with this card, but that was kind of my first one that I really was like kind of disturbed by, because I thought Jose Aldo was getting beat up pretty bad there towards the end. But yeah, like I said, I think this is more about Peter Yan and the dominance that he kind of showed. Really overwhelming, an aging Jose Aldo, but still, effective. He's not that washed up just yet, so I don't want to like take anything away from him. But like I said, the dominance, it was pretty evident that he overwhelmed him pretty much the whole fight. So.
And then let's talk about Henry Cejudo as well.
Oh God, don't get me started. Did you see his tweets during the fight?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring him up. Honestly, let's preface this for a second. Is Henry Cejudo in the GOAT conversation at all right now at this moment?
No, I don't even. I don't want to just get on and just start ripping him, but I think it was you who brought it to my attention that like you don't just get to have one, like pretty much one or two title defenses and just label yourself the GOAT. I don't even know where this type of like energy comes from.
Well, hang on. Here's the whole thing. You're missing one important point. You know why he says he's the GOAT? Because he won those Olympic gold medals.
That's
I don't
cute.
know how that translates.
That's cute, but we're in the UFC now. Like we're talking about UFC GOAT. Like this doesn't
MMA GOAT basically.
You don't get to take over your previous accomplishments and label it as your current accomplishments. Like that's not how life works. Like I can't. I don't even know how to like explain it. Like.
Trust me, I'm frustrated too.
I was a dean of students in middle school. Okay, give me a job. Like, no, I'm the GOAT of, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just that guy gets like hits me right here in the chest. Like that guy just unnerves me so bad, and then for him to say, like. Yeah, it was a good fight or whatever, but I would wreck Peter Yan. Like, okay, then come fight him. Like, I just feel like he got out of the division right when Peter Yan was coming up. Like, I can't prove this obviously, but I just feel like it was a big duck. Like, it was just like, okay, I'm the double champ. I'm leaving.
He literally said, "You won't have to hear from me anymore. I'm the GOAT." Which, again, as I think we both agree. I don't know how to count those Olympic gold medals or quantify it. You seem to not even care about it necessarily.
No, I don't. Yoel Romero's an Olympic medalist too. Do we label him the GOAT?
Well, I think he got the silver. But
still, he's in a, so okay. I understand it's not gold, but okay, does that make him second GOAT because he has a silver? Like, no, this is not what this is. You don't get to label yourself, especially when you get a double and then you just say, I'm done. You didn't even defend it. Like, you didn't fight anyone. You just said, okay, I'm done. Like, no, you have to defend it. You have to show that, like, you cannot be beaten for a long stretch of time. Like, what even did he finish with his MMA record? Like, in the UFC? Like, do we know?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
It's not a lot of fights. I know that. Okay, so for him to be like, I'm the GOAT, if we're gonna go into that conversation, then just because he has two belts, or is he really saying that just because of the Olympic gold medals? Is that literally, or is he saying it because he's the double champ?
Because he's the double champ and the gold medals. But first off, can we at least admit that Demetrius Johnson fight, that first big fight, or I guess second big fight that he had when he beat Demetrius Johnson, can we at least admit that there was a good portion of the population that felt, of like MMA fans who felt that
He lost.
Demetrius Johnson won the fight?
Yes, that Henry Cejudo lost, including me. I'm in that boat. That's why
I agree with you too.
I can't even like comprehend. To me, it's just another grab at like I need to be a bigger star than I am. You know what I mean? It's just another one of those guys who just needs to be in the spotlight, and he just will run his mouth as much as he can just to be in the spotlight.
And then like the whole wrestling thing too.
It wasn't just like a small minority. I feel like the majority of people thought DJ won that fight. So for there to even be controversy about it, and then for you to not even defend, a double belt, and then for you to bring in the argument that you have Olympic gold medal, I don't know. The whole thing to me is just wishy-washy. And then, like you said, for him to start mouthing, or like I said, for him to start tweeting at Peter Yan after the fight, especially when, like you said, he said, "You'll never have to hear from me again." Okay, I thought that was like a mic drop moment. Like, why do we like?
Let's just see you in wrestling or something.
Why do you need to keep making yourself feel like relevant? Like, if you feel like you're the GOAT, you don't need to back it up. Like, the people and other things will let that speak. You know what I mean? You don't have to keep trying to make yourself relevant when no one's talking about him anymore. We're moved on. Like,
is he frustrated at the fact that he's not even being considered? Like, honestly, when we're talking about the GOAT conversation, how many times do we have discussions about MMA and we mention Henry Cejudo in that discussion? I don't think we've ever mentioned it.
Bro, we will never. Because like I said, for you to be considered the GOAT, look at DJ's run.
Yes,
look 11. At the run of excellence he had. Oh, by the way, I want to give a shout out to my waiter. I actually watched these fights at Boston's restaurant in Mill Creek, and my waiter was DJ's training partner.
Oh my God, yes! So yes.
That, I guess,
props.
That made me even a little bit more frustrated, because seeing this guy's frustration with Henry Cejudo was like even more added fuel to the fire.
Clap it up, man. Clap it up. Clap it up.
DJ's run of excellence was like stupid long and stupid dominant. So Cejudo wants that type of recognition. Go fight some more, and then you can be in the conversation. Like, you can have a seat at the table. Like, I'm not even going to consider you for it yet to even, like, have a spot at the table. It's just not.
Here's the thing. Look, if he wants to be considered the GOAT, he has to defend the belt multiple times. He's already got the double champ thing. The gold medal, sure. I'm fine. I don't know how to quantify it, but it's there, fine. And then go to one and fight Demetrius Johnson. Let's be honest. He's killing it in one even now. Like, One won that trade. Let's not beat around the bush.
100%.
One won that trade, and his career trajectory, even at one, which, I mean, unfortunately for even us as MMA fans, we don't talk about Demetrius Johnson and what he's doing at one even now, or what he's even done at the UFC, but he's in the GOAT conversation not only from what he's done at the UFC, but also at one as well. Let's be honest.
Yeah, he's continuing his run of excellence. One thing I actually found out was the owner of one is actually a local guy from here too. That's why DJ originally went over there, is because it's his old coach.
Interesting.
That was a big reason why he went to one, which obviously was a little bit sad for us to see as fans, because I felt like him and UFC just fit a little bit better, because you have to wake up at 5 a.m. to watch, a one fight or whatever. So
yeah,
it's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, he's continuing his run, and I just feel like that one questionable at best loss, doesn't take away everything that he's done before that.
Yeah.
Like, there was no one that could touch him in that division. You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't even controversy. Like, it was just like, he's gonna win every fight. Like,
and he's gonna win in incredible fashion too. I mean, he's had some incredible fights. Even in that division.
Anyway, Cejudo needs to just take a backseat for a while.
Yeah, For sure, for sure. I'd like to see him fight Peter Yan. I think it would be a lot of fun. But again, as Dana said, even
to be honest, I think he'd get killed.
I think
seriously, Peter Yan is like
Peter
I think
Yan's good.
he's the next big. No, I think he's like he's gonna be a problem for a while. Like he's dominant. Like
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like Cejudo would give him a good shot, but let's be completely honest about this. As Dana talked about, even with Connor last month, if you're gonna say you're gonna retire, like you're not GSP where you can just come back and get ready to go. Like I'm sorry, he's retired. Like stop.
Yeah.
Stop. And then Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway. So before we get
robbery.
hang on.
Oh my gosh.
I thought this fight was close. I thought that Holloway won. But I don't think this is something that you and I have ever talked about, and I think it's important because we saw 2 split decisions on this main card. We have to have a discussion about what are we talking about between unanimous decision and split decision. Because let's be honest, while I agree with you and I thought Max Holloway won, it was still a very close fight. And it was a split decision. Is it that much of a problem to you? Like if it was a unanimous decision, I think we would be all up in arms. But the fact that it was a split decision, does that alleviate your frustration a little bit? Like, how do we differentiate this? Because I think that's been a big problem is we're not differentiating the fact that it was a split decision where it was really, really close to a unanimous decision where it was just Max Holloway definitely being the better fighter throughout. You could make an argument that Volkanovski won and I wouldn't have been mad.
I don't know. I feel like it just takes some of the heat off of the judges. You know what I mean? If it's split, I don't know. To me, this fight wasn't that close. I just felt like they gave way too much credit to like the 1 or 2 takedowns Volkanovski had.
Oh, that's what I did too. But I think knockdown. I think that matters a lot to the judges who can take a guy down and keep him down there for a few minutes.
I think it means more in this type of fight where it was, there wasn't like a dominant stretch in this fight. I think it holds more weight. But to me, it was like clear as day that Max won the first 3 rounds. Like clear as day, like no question. So just by that logic, like I don't care if he has a takedown in the 5th round. Like it doesn't matter. He already won the first 3 rounds. Like unless Max gets knocked out or gets submitted, like there's no debate. Like you can't outweigh a guy winning 3 rounds and just say, yeah, he had a couple takedowns towards the end of the fight, so that outweighs maybe a round where it was close. That doesn't outweigh it to me. If he wins the round, he wins the round. You know what I mean? Like, and to me, there was just no argument for Volkanovski winning any of those first 3 rounds. Like, yeah, you can say it's close, but
I thought the first 3 rounds were close. I still thought Holloway won the first 3 rounds, but I still thought it was close.
That's what I mean, though. Like, you can say it's close. That's fine. But you still, when Holloway wins 3 rounds, just because it's close doesn't mean the takedown means more. He still won the 3 rounds. You know what I mean?
I guess, yeah.
It's still winning the 3 rounds regardless of how close it is. Which is, I think, needs to be more of the focus is regardless of how close it is, if he wins a round, he wins a round. Like, but you're winning more of the fight than the other guy is.
But let's also be honest here and recognize that for it to be a split decision, which it was, some of the judges had to give one of those 3 rounds to Volkanovski. So is that where your frustration lies about probably more so the fact that there are some judges who did feel that Volkanovski won considering how close those first 3 rounds were?
You mean as far as like, obviously one of the judges scoring one of those first 3 rounds?
Yeah, because
like
I feel
in Volkanovski's favor?
Yeah, because I think the only way for it to be a split decision and for Volkanovski to win was for one of those judges to give Volkanovski one of those first 3 rounds more so than the takedowns itself.
Yeah, so That's great. I feel like it was more based on the fact that he was the champ. So if it's a little bit close, maybe we lean towards the champ's way, which I feel like we didn't get with the first fight. I feel like that one Max won some rounds that he didn't get. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like being the champ, I think there should be a little bit of, if it's really close, maybe we lean the champ's way. Now, whether that's right or wrong is, a separate topic, but I feel like if it is really close and you really are like borderline deciding, you should lean the champ's way. Okay, which we didn't get with the first fight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think. Okay, so the only way to me that you could judge one of those first 3 rounds in Volkanovski's favor is if you were saying, well, he's the champ, like let's if it's really, really tight and I'm 50-50, then we have to go, one way rather than saying like, let's give it to Holloway. He's not the champ. Like, let's have a new champ, which is, I feel like where a lot of the stigma of like, I don't know, favoritism comes from, where like we tend to lean towards the champ's way. We tend to, which is my beef with both these fights is because Max didn't get it. I don't feel like in the first round or in the first fight, excuse me. And I felt like Volkanovski got it this time.
Because I think the point here is not necessarily the takedowns in the last 2 rounds. I think we can both agree that Volkanovski won the fourth and the fifth. But in terms of the first 3, I felt that Holloway won, but I felt it was close. And I felt there was a case that one of the few of the judges, or I guess one of them, made the decision to say Volkanovski won one of those first few rounds, or the first 3. And that's where I think the problem is. The problem is not necessarily the last 2 rounds. It's what happened in those first 3 and how the judges scored those first 3 rounds that really kind of set a fire along this fight for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's just what I mean though. I just feel like unanimously we all, like UFC fans as a whole, or anyone who watched this fight as a whole, really probably thought it was like, I would guess like 95% of people thought that Max won the first 3 rounds, which is why it's frustrating because like it wasn't like it was like really, I don't think it was like really debatable amongst a lot of people the first 3 rounds at least. So, and then you have Dana come out and saying, like, I really am questioning what those refs were like.
The judges
were thinking. You know what I mean? Like, even Dana's coming out and saying it, like, and Dana never does that. So it's
no,
like,
he does do that. He does.
even
Stop
adds more, like problems with. I
But
don't know.
even with that, I felt a little weirded out by that because I was like, and this is probably some of my weird thought process about unanimous versus split and how we quantify it. But even when he came out and said and questioned, I was like, you do realize that it was a split decision. That was kind of part of my issue. Not saying that I disagree. I agree that Max should have won. I agree that Max won the first 3 rounds. I totally 100% agree. But again, I still preference this by saying those first 3 rounds were still quite close. So because it was a split decision, I thought it was a little strange.
I
Because
know, but that type of logic is why I feel like it gets in trouble though, because I feel like you're almost just like allowing these sort of things to happen if you're not nipping it in the bud and saying like, listen, regardless of it being close or not, like I said, like
yeah,
95% of people, like it wasn't like 60 and 40. It was like 90, like almost consensus, like people, everyone watching thought.
mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, it's split, but like that's taken away from the bigger issue. Like I just feel like that type of argument just allows this to kind of slip under the rug when we should be like wondering like, okay, how can you score one of those first 3 rounds in Volkanovski's favor? Like where's the logic behind that? Which is what we should be asking. You know what I mean?
I think this also brings up a wider discussion, of course, as we've always had about the judges and how many judges should be there, and it brings up that bigger discussion. Now let's move on to the main event. Usman and Masvidal. To be honest, you were right on the money with this fight. You're basically right on it. with Usman basically dominating. You said you have a problem with this fight. What was your issue?
Um, I another kind of hot take. I just feel like Usman isn't really a dominant champ to me. Like, yeah, he controlled this fight like through and through. Like, don't get me wrong, he absolutely like dominated this fight. But I just feel like it was sort of like he's just outsmarting guys, and that's kind of what bothers me about him. Is he's not like a dominant fighter where like he's gonna come in and knock you out or like just wrap you up. You know, he just takes what your weakness is. And don't get me wrong, like I don't want to sound like I'm just putting him down because he's a good fighter, but like the little stuff like him stomping on Masvidal's feet like half the fight is just a little bit like bush league to me. I understand he's trying to get, advantages and points where he can because he has to do that so that way the ref doesn't break him up because he's more or less he was leaning on Masvidal a lot of the fight, which is why I would have liked to see it broken up, which is also probably another debatable topic for most people because he is controlling him, but I just want to see a little more of a fight. I don't want to see him just holding on for most of the fight. And like I said, don't get me wrong, he's controlling the fight, but it's not like we're getting a really good fight. You know what I mean? It's a little bit frustrating to watch. I will say he knows how to pick his spots because with Covington, he stayed up on his feet, which by all accounts, I think Colby Covington is a much better wrestler than Usman. So he understands weaknesses and stuff like that, and he's fighting to his advantage. But it's just a little bit tiresome to watch sometimes. You know what I mean? Like I said, him stomping on a guy's feet just so it looks like he's doing something, so that way he can just control. And he is controlling the fight. He's controlling, the pace and everything. He's on top, he's winning the fight. It's just not what I want to see from a champ. I want to see a champ come out and kind of impose his style on someone else rather than just picking apart someone else's weaknesses.
See, I have to differ with you on this because it goes away from what the sport is from a technical perspective. The reality is, and I'll be honest, Trevor Whitman and his team, especially for the Rose fight in particular, was really fun to listen to. But even for this fight for Usman, the reality of the matter is how many fights. I mean, to be honest, like if you watch the UFC as heavy as we do, we understand that a fight similar to Usman and Masvidal actually happens more often in women's divisions. Would you agree with me on that? Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, and that's obvious. I'm just making a point just to say that it does happen more in the women's divisions. It's not anything in particular. It's just sort of an observation.
Yeah.
But looking at the way we view main events compared to a prelim card or whatever, I mean, how many fights a year, men's and women's combined, have fights similar to that one? It happens a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
So then I don't understand. Yes, it's maybe not the most funnest thing in the world to watch when you're, watching a pay-per-view and it's a main event, and it's a big fight, and you want to see fireworks. I get it, but at the same time, it goes away from the things that I think we really appreciate about the sport. Yes, that might not be the most amazing thing to watch necessarily, but for us who understand the ins and outs of the sport, this is just sort of part of the game. And the technical, then what you're doing if you're complaining about this fight is appreciating the less tech or not appreciating the technical aspects of what makes a fight, and you just want to see fireworks every fight. That's just unrealistic, and that's not what the sport of MMA is.
No, maybe I'm not like wording this right. It's not that I want to see like fireworks and stuff every time. If he wants to get down and wrestle, by all means, I have no problem watching, wrestling. But when he's not even getting, like that many, I didn't yeah, he had a couple takedowns, but more or less he was getting one takedown and then laying for like 5-10, not 5-10, like a couple minutes. You know what I mean? It felt like 10 minutes. But like like I said, I want the champ to get in and dictate and impose his style of fighting, which I feel like Usman doesn't do. He just looks at the opponent of who he's fighting and, says like, oh, he's not good at doing this, so we're going to do this. Rather than him pushing the pace and being like, this is what I want to do. You know what I mean? Because I feel like when you're the champ, I want a certain type of like confidence in there, which I feel like he doesn't portray. I feel like he's a little bit more lax and he's a little bit more. It's not that he's technical, because I have no problem with that, but he's just. And don't get me wrong, like I said, I was watching the fight, and as frustrated as I was with how it was going, I would have liked to seen it been broken up a few times so we could get a little bit more action. I don't want it to sound like I'm saying like I need them standing up the whole time, or I need something to be happening all the time, because I understand, like you said, the technical ability of some of these guys. Sometimes that's what makes a fight. But I just feel like from a champ, there should be a little bit more urgency. I feel like he should be looking to win the fight rather than just coast through fights, which I feel like with Usman we get more or less. Well, outside of the Covington fight, that was the first one I really seen him open up and like fight. Not that just because it was standing up, but I felt like he was pressing a little bit more than he did in this fight. I feel like this fight he knew he could handle him and control on the ground, so that's all he was looking to do, which was my problem from the beginning. Like I told you, I knew he was going to do, because Masvidal by no accounts is a great wrestler. So I knew a lot of steam had been taken away when Gilbert Burns, tested positive. I knew a lot of steam of this fight had been taken away just because of the technical and grappling abilities of, from Masvidal to Burns.
Do you feel so firstly, do you feel that it's because of how short notice it was that Trevor Whitman and his team with Kamaru said, in this specific instance, let's just focus on what we know our strength is to his weaknesses, because it was such a short notice fight? Do you think if they had a full camp, the fight would have been a lot different, or no?
No, I think just with these fighters, I think, like I keep saying, what Usman and his camp do is they really understand, like what the opposing fighter's strengths are and what Usman's weaknesses, and more or less that's been him, like standing up and fighting. But I also think they understand Jorge Masvidal is like has lethal power. You know what I mean? Like we've seen it in and out. So if you get him in a clinch and you can eliminate the space and you can keep it on the ground, it's just neutralizing. Instead of, like I said, him attacking, he's just neutralizing what the other guy does best. And which is what he did with Colby Covington too, which I felt like was a little bit frustrating. Covington went for a couple of takedowns in the fight, not a lot, but Usman did a good job with his takedown defense. So I feel like he's just neutralizing, which is what I keep saying it, but it's my biggest point is he's not implementing any style that he wants to do, or he's just neutralizing what the other guy does best. Now to this fight in particular, I think with a long camp, short camp, whatever, I think they understand, like I said, the lethal ability of Jorge Masvidal, striking ability. So I think, it's smart from his camp, as frustrating as it is, it's really smart from his team and him to be able to understand those things. But no matter how long the time was, I think this would have been the strategy no matter what. I think it was probably a little bit easier for him to do this than like with Gilbert Burns, where he would have had to prepare a little bit more on his feet. So I think this is a little bit easier for him to do, because he's very well conditioned and a very good, like I said, he controls fights well if he's on the ground. So I think this is easier for him on a short camp, a short notice, to be able to do, rather than, stand up and fight.
Do you want to see this fight again under a full camp or no?
No. I just know these two style fighters don't match up. It just, like you said, we've seen it so many times in UFC, women's, men's, whatever, where we get these different, completely different style of fighters, and we get these type of fights where it's not a main event. You know what I mean? It's good to decide who's going to be third and fourth in a division, but not for a main event.